Welcome into Celtics Late Night. Ben Vallis here alongside Jake Eisenberg and Wayne Spooney. And what a night, guys. The Celtics get back on track a little bit here. Marcus Smart rolls into town, brings the good vibes with him. Jordan Walsh gets his first NBA bucket. Wayne Spooney also able to join us thanks to a rare early game from the C's. Spooney, how's it going, man?
Good. Happy to be here.
Here he is.
All right. I don't want to sound like I'm whining or complaining, but
Please.
for a 40-point win, it was kind of an unimpressive performance. Right? Is that crazy?
No. They didn't play well at all.
Yeah.
It was like Tatum started hitting pull-up threes, and we're like, okay, the game's safe now. So
See ya.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, they were playing a 5'8" guy on Porzingis. You know, it was only a matter of time.
Yeah. That didn't work somehow.
Dude. Even Tatum, like, posted him up and took, like, a 16-footer, and I was like, can we just put him in the basket, dude? Like, yeah. I guess, like, in theory, he can't see him, so, like, that shot is even easier than it normally would be. But, yeah, they played better than they did against the Lakers, so that's fair. Like, turnover, like, we didn't see 9 turnovers, like, off of feet. I guess it was later in the game, but Jrue Holiday literally just bounced past it directly to an opponent in the zone, which...
Oh, Jrue.
Oh, Jrue, dude.
We'll get to Jrue, but before we get to the game, because it was a very nothing game. It just thank God they just took care of business. They rested their starters in the fourth. The game went along as planned, other than a weird stretch in the second with the Jrue and the bench lineup where we kind of let it get close there. Even though we did actually even up the rebounding balance at that same time. But we'll get to all of that because it matters a lot less than the Marcus Smart experience. Jake, I'll start with you. Just broad approach here. Were you satisfied with tonight's Marcus Smart experience?
I was. I think the bar of 2 tributes throughout the game is like, that shows that you're above your average single video tribute player, which Marcus Smart absolutely is. Like, Dame got 2 tributes for his return to Portland, and like, he's maybe the greatest Blazer in the history of the franchise. So that's if you can meet the same level as Dame. Oh, they nailed it. You've got the in-game, on-the-court highlights with the first tribute. And then, I mean, has there ever been a better way to describe Marcus Smart than a hero among us? I mean,
That's right.
The man himself. It was beautiful.
I thought that was awesome because it's usually like somebody in the community or something like that, which Smart very much was. Like, every time you go on Twitter, he's like taking a picture with a sick child. The man is an absolute saint. So yeah, I thought it was good. I think my favorite part was when they're like the crowd busted out the "Thank you, Marcus" chant randomly throughout the game. That was like really awesome. I mean, the coming home, I just think they did him. It was a worthy tribute to Smart, and I feel like he felt the same way. It looked like he was getting a little emotional at one point too.
Yeah, Mike Gorman as well on the call coming off that first tribute. You could hear his voice cracking quite a lot as well. I don't think he was holding back as far as how much the moment meant for him. But yeah, especially for me, that Heroes Among Us thing, that's like the key distinction between Marcus and all other celebrated former Celtics. The fact that they slotted him in there as well, that sort of like properly highlights the community aspects of his impact on the Celtics beyond what he obviously was great at on the court as well. So that was really cool. I have to say, I was a little surprised at how unfazed I was personally, which I was so shocked. I fully expected to be welling up on the playback essentially because, you know, I remember the day Smart got drafted. We've been on the roller coaster, such an insane, brutal roller coaster ride that I've lost figuratively limbs on this roller coaster. It was been that crazy, and yet all I could think about was, man, we got KP, and that's unlocking the championship for the Celtics, and that's what it's all about. And I'm so locked in there that it was great to see you, Marcus. I love you, buddy. But I couldn't quite let myself get swept up emotionally in the moment. Did you guys feel that at all?
I definitely felt emotional, but yeah, man, I think I moved on pretty well. I grieved in the midst of being on pace for 64 wins with like the best net rating in the NBA and like the best Celtics team since 2008, and watching Kristaps Porzingis play at this insane level. So that definitely helps with the healing process. Like if KP comes in and like tears his meniscus in like the first month of the season, and Marcus comes back, let's say he plays in this game and he's doing like all the Marcus Smart stuff, and like it's a tight, gritty game. Mm-hmm. Maybe I would have cried during the tribute, but like, you know, we have, even Marcus said it in his presser. Like, if I was making those decisions, I would have made that decision as well. So I think everybody's in a pretty good place with it. It feels like it was incredibly emotional when it happened, and like to the point where I'm driving and just thinking about Marcus Smart looking off into the distance. It's just so to go from that to here, I think definitely speaks to how well the Celtics have played this year and how we haven't really felt the loss of his presence.
Have you ever had like a good relationship, but not like you just know you weren't going to get married and you like date for a couple years, maybe you live together and you're both just like, I think it's time we just go our separate ways. Mm-hmm. That's what I felt like with Marcus. Like, it's just time, dude. Like you said, you can't ride a roller coaster for the rest of your life. Sometimes you got to get off, right, and go get some food.
Totally.
So I think that's part of it for me. Is I'm with you guys. Like, I thought it would be a little more emotional than it was, and I think part of it is just like, hey, we're both in a better place now. Like, you know, we're both happy. Yeah. It's going to be fine. And KP has 26 points and dominated for stretches of this game. It makes it pretty easy to, like, move on, you know?
Yeah, so it was very fitting when we cut away from the Marcus Smart tribute and, you know, Gorman's, you know, a little emotional and everything. And then we cut straight to Kristaps Porzingis, catch the ball, high post, turn around, curveball, like bucket, the kind of bucket that no one on the team last year could get. And you're like, oh, yeah, okay, cool. Like, I'm enjoying the process here. This is good. So we love you, Marcus. But I suppose we should do a quick around the room. And maybe we've done this, you know, 10 or 20 times already on the show over the years.
Never enough.
But favorite Marcus Smart moments? Is there anything that comes to mind? I've got one queued up if nothing comes to mind for you guys.
Jump in, Ben. We'll go after you. Take the first
2016 playoffs, Hawks series. It's the series we're going up against Al Horford, and he subsequently said, like, playing in the Garden during that series is what made me want to join Isaiah Thomas and Marcus Smart and become a Celtic, just because of how insane of an environment that was to play in as a road team. But Marcus Smart in that series, guarding Paul Millsap, the only part of our roster, the only person on the team who could, and we had some bigger, we had a Zeller, one variety of Zeller. We had Kelly Olynyk on the team, but Marcus Smart was the only person who could lock down, and I say that genuinely, lock down Paul Millsap for a few games in that series. And that we knew who Marcus Smart was as like a first to the floor, general, you know, defensive anchor, culture guy, but I don't think we had known that he had the ability to guard that far upwards positionally, and he put that on display in that series, put the league on notice, and just further increased the love bubble that we're all living in for Marcus at that time. It was great.
So I've just pulled up like the box score and stuff from that series. So firstly, that lineup, it was IT, Evan Turner, Jay Crowder, Amir Johnson, and Marcus Smart came off the bench in that game. Interestingly, it's like, and he goes off, he has 20 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, team high plus 24 in, like, that's just ridiculous, dude. Like, there's nothing more Marcus Smart than that. And like, that's what's crazy, is he was so important, so impactful for so long. I forget how, like, he came off the bench for most of his career here until like the Udoka season, and probably incorrectly in hindsight. We probably should have been empowering him earlier to try and become the guy that he kind of ended up turning into. But yeah, that series, man, like, yeah, that was a moment for Big Marcus.
It's a shame this play was not in front of fans, but the Norm Powell chase down block.
Oh my God, dude!
Was everything about Marcus Smart, right? Like, he has to sprint down to even catch up to Powell. He makes an incredible defensive play. I think he even got the ball back after it too. And it was basically to win the series. So just a massive play. God, I wish that was in front of the TD Garden. It would have been in Toronto anyway.
I was gonna say technically, yeah. But dude, like off the back of a JT turnover, like in a series that we should have gone up 3-0 as opposed, and it's like, oh my God, we've already started thinking about our chances of making the finals, let alone, which is kind of encapsulates the Marcus Smart era a little bit as well. It's just everything had to go down to the wire where we needed Marcus Smart to do just Herculean like things towards the end of these games. But yeah, he was incredible. Like I actually liked that game 6 in that series just as much, where they go to double. Like I didn't actually enjoy it because we lost the game, and I was legitimately like on the floor after we lost because double overtime. But Marcus has 23, 11, 10 assists, a steal. Like, just such an underrated playoff performer. Like, there was definitely moments where, he struggled and teams always left him open, which is why the Jrue fit is so much cleaner. But yeah, Kenny Smith in the chat here, the Kawhi steal, diving into the scorer's table, throwing it off Kawhi's leg. I mean...
Yeah, that was sick.
Yeah.
The Cobra strikes where someone like Dennis Schroeder is walking the ball up, and he just like completely lays out and steals the ball. Like there's just countless times where he's made ridiculous plays.
Yeah, and you guys mentioned it as no, of course. That's the moment of moments on the Smart Mount Rushmore. And you guys kind of touched on it, but just the Maestro Marcus season and a half, but particularly under Ime Udoka there, where he was just fully unlocked as like the orchestrator of the offense and had some crazy, sick, like amazing highlight passes behind the backs and no looks to Al Horford and to Jaylen and in transition. Just some really good moments where it felt like his like true point guard skills were unleashed for a moment there. And they've since gone away. Hopefully we see them again, albeit not against the Celtics. But that was a lot of fun to see just like another skill set emerge from a guy that we already loved so dearly. Okay, what else? Smart said... Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that one more, he had the franchise record of threes in that, like, against the Phoenix Suns at home.
11?
To keep them in the game. And then the last play of the game, Brad Stevens draws up this beautiful ATO, which leads to a wide open Gordon Hayward, like, alley-oop, like, his head's at the rim. All he has to do is just, like, lay the ball in, and he just completely blows it. And,
Yeah.
Jesus.
Like, even last year, everybody talks about Game 6 in Philly, Tatum exploding in the fourth quarter. The only reason we're in that game so Tatum can win it is because Smart was monstrous in that third quarter. He had, tons of floaters and little pull-ups. So, I mean, dude, he was one guy you can say he was better in the playoffs always. And he had his faults. Yes, some of those amazing passes also were balanced out with some Shaq than a fool passes too. But
of course,
he's just the best. Yeah,
that's the Marcus Smart experience. It was a great day, and we got to celebrate the life and times of Marcus Smart as far as his tenure with the Celtics is concerned. So that was a lot of fun. And here's Jayson Tatum talking about Marcus Smart's time as a Celtics post game.
Jayson, before the game in the locker room, you asked Marcus Smart if he was going to cry during that tribute video. I feel like he held it together. What were the emotions like for you having him back in the building?
It was great. It was great to see the reception that he got. Being here for 10 years, he was heart and soul of, this organization. And people showed their respect and love today. He deserves it. He deserves it all. So it was just good to see him. Obviously I miss him. So it was just really good to see him.
That ovation just now for Marcus as he walks off the floor. What does it mean to you to see the way that the fans here react to him and his return?
It's only right, man. He, like you said, he gave his blood, sweat, and tears every single night. He left it all on the floor. He was a huge part of the success that we had for so many years. I say all the time, for the longest time, he was for sure the favorite Celtic on our team, and rightly so. So it was good to see him get the love that he deserved.
I think it's only fitting that.
I think it's very telling that you've got your, 5-time All-Star, multi-time All-NBA first-team player there at center court, and meanwhile the crowd is just going completely apeshit for an ex-Celtic in the background. Very, very telling. Should we get to the game? There was a game tonight.
There was a game.
Where we did win by 40 points. We kind of said it was a nothing game. Spoonie, you kind of touched on it earlier. Do you want to finish that thought where it was kind of a nothing game despite the bounce back, at least in the win column?
Yeah, I don't want to go too far and be like, well, they played poorly. I don't think they did by any means. But look, who the hell were they starting at center? I looked him up. I already forgot his name, Jemison or something.
Trey Jamison, dude. Yeah, he's your start a career character on 2K.
Yeah, he's a procedurally generated NPC.
I looked up his college stats. He averaged 9 and 8 last year in college as a senior. He didn't even crack double-digit points. So, like, a slightly below average Celtics performance with, basically healthy other than Jaylen is going to lead to a 40-point blowout against whatever that team Memphis was rolling out. But there's one stat I think I'm going to start tracking this, but the starters had a 2.57 assist to turnover ratio. And I want to see if, I bet you, because, it's really the problem with the starters when the turnovers get really bad. So, look, they took care of the ball as much as they needed to. Tatum went absolutely nuclear. And I thought they did a really good job at picking mismatches for KP, which there were several of them. And he was, the shot was going a little bit. So kind of just like a professional, hey, let's not go crazy here. Let's not get tired. Let's not get hurt. Let's just put this team away. Other than the second quarter where it got a little sketchy.
Well, it was weird. It's weird. The second quarter got a little sketchy, but then we finished the first half with a 20-point lead. So it was and Tatum hit those 2 step back threes, pull up threes, late in the quarter to push it out to 20. You're like, okay, we know what that means. Those types of shots, they weren't excellent. But the biggest difference between this game and the Lakers game was at least the turnovers, and if you're not going they had 3 turnovers in the first half. And if you're going to do that against a team like this, you're probably going to be up at minimum double digits, if not 20 points. And they were 2 of those turnovers of those 3 attributed to our good friend, Jrue Holiday, which I'm starting to turn into salty cheek on Jrue Holiday.
Yeah. Bad over here.
Yeah. And I honestly think it's kind of deserved. But we can get to him. But, Tatum and KP, and Derek in the first half were kind of the story where Tatum's 8 for 13, Kristaps. This matchup was just unfair, really, for him. And his numbers should have been better. He missed 2 just wide open dunks or bunnies or whatever they were in this game as well. And so he has 17 points in the first half on 8 shots, which is just
stupid.
Silly.
Yeah, that's wild.
They had someone my height out there. I don't know if that's just not going to work, dude. Tosan, Ev Boumwan was out there. It was always going to go this way.
KP had a few good looks at the basket from 3 as well, and this one that he just completely missed. That shot really is wavering a lot throughout the season. I really hope that he can find some consistency there through the playoffs, because it may be the difference between 4-5 game series and 6 and 7 game series, just the reliability of that shot, because the process in finding that look, we've got that down pat. We find it time and time again, and it helps that he's in the stratosphere compared to any defender in the NBA. But we've really tightened that up. And it was something that we were addressing on this show early in the season, that we were a little bit sluggish in getting him the ball on time and on target. And they've really nipped that in the bud. But the shots aren't going in, so it kind of doesn't matter. And he had plenty of good looks tonight, and they still weren't going in for the most part.
2 for 5.
Yeah, I guess it maybe just speaks to who I am as a person, the way I watch the game. But the 3 clankers off the rim are the ones that really stick in my mind, and especially when you factor in the shot quality of the misses. They were good for the most part, open looks, and I think he needs to be hitting those with more reliability. I think for at least me personally to be satisfied. Maybe I'm alone there.
Well, you're right. He needs. We want him to be closer to 40% than where he's at for the season. 33 is just. I think today, if he goes, I honestly think the number is too low. Still, 2 for 5.
Yeah.
I would want him to be closer to 7 per game. And I do wonder if his usage goes up. He has 17 overall shots in this game, so considering he plays 27 minutes, the usage is kind of exactly where you want it. That's kind of perfect and makes sense with Jaylen out. Mitch, he is kind of a career 40% 3-point shooter. So to the chat here saying his shot's too flat. So. I do think that it's something that will kind of normalize. Maybe the volume, typically when volume goes up, the percentages don't go up as well. But I just feel like he needs more shots to get more of a rhythm. But wasn't he 39.5% last year? So I think we're splitting hairs here, guys. But again, that's much lower than what he's shooting this year on, in theory, really good quality. So, or 38.5, so 39% last year. So yeah.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Ben.
No, please. I was going to move on. So if you've got someone on KP,
Oh yeah,
let's hear it.
really quick. I also think it is kind of a difficult balance because part of why he's so valuable to the Celtics is because he gives us that low variance offense, and he's getting that in the high post, down low. And so, like, do you want him running primarily pick and pops? And he does seem a little hesitant to just, like, fire. But then sometimes he's just like, oh, there's a hand in my face. I'm going to shoot this one. And then he passes up the wide open one. So I think it's tough. It's probably just something that'll work itself out. But, yeah, I think we've all kind of agreed we'd like to see his overall usage tick up as the season goes on. I haven't checked it lately, but he was a pretty distant third in usage behind the Jays. So I wonder what that's up to nowadays.
Yeah, well,
I was like, his usage is going to go up in the playoffs. I think his usage is going to be like, that's going to be part of the game plan every series, a part of the offense. It's just more consistent. Like, he's just a consistent use of the offense, possession after possession. And so, like, and not even necessarily him shooting, but I remember, like, when he first got here, even in the preseason, like, he was just setting a bazillion screens. Like, he was just involved in every single action. That's not quite the case, kind of in, game out. But I think once we get to the playoffs, that is going to be the case, where it's just, like, every action's a KP pick and roll, pick and pop, short roll, pop. It's just going to be, yeah. And, okay, well, everybody's trying to call me out on the shooting here. He's shooting, like, a very low relative to... He's actually up to 35 here, and so career 35.8. He's still down relative to where he has been for his career, and that's purely from, like, the last 3 or 4 week stretch.
Right.
And so, like, 'cause most of the season he's been at 33, and in theory, right, he's supposed to get some of the best looks of his career playing on this team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you said, hard not to imagine that the usage not skyrockets, but, you know, increases significantly in the playoffs. Even, like, watching the game lately and tonight, like, the Grizz came out in zone for a few possessions there, just trying to get some form of a stop on the season. You just watch him being like, there's KP, there he is, he's slashing across the paint, he's open at the nail, like, get him. And, like, they don't even get him the ball as much as it's obvious to us as, like, relatively to the coaching staff on the Celtics non-ball knowers. So, like, the looks are there, they're obvious for him. I would like to think that there's a conscientious, like, okay, well, let's just, like, ease off the gas on KP a little bit. Jake giggling here as I get into my anxieties about the Celtics' health. You know, let's not go too hard on Porzingis because we're going to need him for that higher usage in the playoffs. So do you think that factors in to some degree that they're actually consciously trying to shy away from him a little bit to preserve him?
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, posting up's hard. It looks like it really sucks to have to post up a lot in a game, right? Like, we've even
on a 5'9" guy.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like, he's up in your,
Well, yeah, dude, he's
groin area,
in the freaking tailbone, in the whatever the bottom vertebrae is, right?
Yeah, it's worse.
Yeah, ouch.
Man. So yeah, that's probably part of it. I think Tatum's been posting up less recently too, probably for that as well. Like, who cares, man? We're playing Memphis in February, whatever the hell month it is. Like, don't post up too much, buddy. Yeah,
yeah.
That's kind of the feel of the team lately. Is it like, we don't want to do the things that are hard. And I get it, but it's hard to accept that when we're trying to claw our way towards the 1 seed. And, like, we're really legitimately close to just locking it up if we're able to build a tiny bit more separation. And so it's like, just keep doing the things that help you guarantee wins. Because, like, yeah, of course, you're still going to win at, like, a 55 game win pace when you're shooting, when you're like 10 to 15% lazier than when you're playing at your most focused. Like, they're 11-5, 11-6 stretch everybody's talking about in January. They're like, oh, Zach Lowe, concern troll, etc., etc. That's still like a 53 win pace, and, like, we can feel them kind of struggling through that. So it's like, if they can, take this softer stretch, maybe, like, well, I don't know. Do you guys want them to be doing the hard things more often, or are we like, we know they can do it, and so it's fine? I kind of lead towards a blend of the two. Cop-out answer. It's like, I want it to be obvious when they're taking the easy way out, and I want it to be obvious when they've decided to take the hard way and win the right way.
I just want them to be healthy, and I think they've demonstrated their abilities.
That's number one.
enough, right? And so I would like to think, when we have a game like tonight and you're like, oh, they just didn't seem to have the grit and tenacity that we would like to see from them, the mind sort of defaults to, at least in my case, you find excuses, right? And Occam's razor is that they're taking it as easy as possible to preserve oneself for the playoffs. So I think it's probably that simple.
Yeah, I'm fine with them taking the foot off the gas, but my one concern is that can build bad habits, and that's what have killed them in the past in the playoffs. So I just hope they do it in such a way that it doesn't get ingrained in how they are just playing basketball from like here on out.
It's never easy. It's never easy, even from our perspective. Sorry, go ahead, Jake.
No, I've got my guard up because remember last season we were so close to clinching the 1 seed and we needed to beat the Wizards, and KP dropped 40 on us and we got blown the fuck out. And it was like, and that basically cost us the 1 seed, which meant that we had to play Philly in round 2 as opposed to playing, it would have been the Knicks in round 2. And who knows, butterfly effect, etc. But and we would have had to play Miami in round 1. But who knows, maybe we beat Miami in round 1 and then we end up making the finals. Like, you just never know. And so like we have chances now. Like, people are talking about the schedule easing up. I hand up jinx the Celtics by talking about a 14-game winning streak. Mitch in the chat here, we've got Hawks, Wizards, 2 Nets. There's a Heat game in there as well. It's like, yeah, I agree. The schedule's going to get lighter, but it's like, do they take their eye off the ball here? And like, that is the problem. You're talking about these habits. It's like, that's what cost us Game 5 in the Atlanta series. What's cost us Game 1 against Philly, and that's the reason why those series go 6 instead of 5 and 7 instead of 6 or 5, really, in that Philly series. And like, that right there is probably the difference between making the finals and not, just being like extra rested going into that Miami series. And so that's what scares me about like dropping these games, because like in a vacuum, these games don't matter. Like Denver didn't play like they cared for a whole month towards the end of the season last year and cost themselves the 1 seed, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not, I forget. But like, they looked like shit for a whole month and then they just went 16-4 in the playoffs and it didn't matter. This Celtics team doesn't have the luxury of a team like that, where they have Jokic, who is like by far and away like going to end up a top 15 player all time. So it's like they need to, their margin for error doesn't exist like it does for some of those other great teams.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And sticking with trying to imagine what the team's mindset and approach is when we have no idea. You have to imagine the short term, that's just like, okay, the All-Star break is coming up. We've got a relatively easy schedule leading up to then. Like, yes, we don't want to take our eye off the ball. Yes, we want to make sure we're playing our best basketball when it comes to the playoffs. But in the short term, let's just get to that fucking break, man, because it's so close. And we're playing, relatively speaking, dog shit teams between now and then. This was just to touch on this very quickly, like, it was a pretty good Jayson Tatum game, let's be honest. Like, and you mentioned the step backs earlier. This is maybe just me, but those are, to me, earned looks. Those are earned step backs, because he's earlier in the game, he's getting downhill, he's getting guys on his hip, and like, there's a couple of times where he's just like dismissing guys with his off the dribble there, and like getting very easy looks at the bucket, and just attacking the defense the way that he should. And then subsequently he snuck in a couple of step backs. They started to go down because he had gotten his eye in, for lack of a better term, playing the right way initially, and then they start to go down in succession, in multiple succession, and suddenly he's on pace for like 60 points before we had the luxury of pulling him because we were up by so many points. So great Tatum game. We got to see some Tatum KP connections in this one, like more so than we normally would. I was talking about during the playback that because we didn't have the cookies and cream factor as part of the game, we got to see maybe what will be the more natural game-winning connection between two players, between Jayson Tatum and Porzingis, because like Jalen wasn't there cutting his grass, again, for lack of a better term. Is there something to read into for that, as far as like Tatum and KP connecting more with Jalen out?
Yeah, I think so, just because Tatum's just going to have the ball a lot more, right? But I'm with you. I think like the future playoff offense for this team is probably foundationally Tatum and KP.
Yep.
And look, hey, it looked really good. Imagine that when you have two incredible offensive players running a two-man game, it's going to look great. So Tatum's passing's like kind of sneaky clicking up here. Over the 3 out of the last 5 games, he's had 7 or more assists. And I thought like that second quarter run, like he just like started putting his head down. He wasn't really like finishing, but he was just like cracking the defense, moving the ball, swing. White had a corner 3-on-1, and it was like he just decided, okay, I'm just going to take this game over, even if it's not by scoring every possession down. Like, they just couldn't stay in front of him, obviously, because they were starting guys who weren't good in college. So, I thought he was just like super in control, by far, clearly the best player on the court.
Yeah, the Tatum passing has definitely ticked up lately, and that's kind of what Tatum has been doing his whole career, is getting better a little bit. And like you often expect some of these improvements to come at the beginning of the season or early in the season, but like kind of makes sense. So maybe we're seeing like Jalen earlier in the year, like a bit of a playmaking leap. Obviously, small sample size here recently, but Tatum's playmaking has been excellent. His turnovers have been down. I mean, some of the passes on the pick and roll tonight to KP were filthy. And so I absolutely agree. The foundation of the playoff offense it's really KP. I don't care who's running the actions. It needs to be with KP, but like Tatum, KP, pick and rolls, Derek, KP, pick and rolls, then Jet. That's my hierarchy personally. Maybe you have Derek and KP at the 1 and the 2, like kind of interchangeable there. But as long as KP is involved there, it just makes things so much simpler, and probably goes back to what you're talking about, Ben, about like, do we want KP fucking screening 50 times a game, banging bodies, running up and down? Like, let's just chuck him over there, shoot a few threes, post up here and there. He's still one of the most efficient players in the NBA while playing like elite defense on the other end. So we're probably nitpicking in the grand scheme of things here, but it is nice today, especially even though the other team sucked, to be like, shit, these two guys like can just absolutely obliterate another team when they're really locked in. Well, not even that locked in, when they're like semi-locked in.
Yeah, locked in enough for this particular roster on the Grizzlies side. Look, Walshy, we will get to Walshy. Boy, will we get to Walshy. But before we get there, we'll save it for a little bit. This is the late night show. We're run sheetless, we're rudderless. We will chuck this up on the podcast feed just because I think there's enough thirsty mouths out there for Celtics content, especially as we head towards the trade deadline. We will have a trade deadline preview show in a couple of days' time. Then, of course, the trade deadline live stream in the hour leading up to that deadline. But for now, with regards to this game, and before we get to Walshy, anything else stand out to you guys? Like, I thought, for example, Derek White flashed some vintage Derek Whiteness. He had a couple of looks where he got downhill and like hit some of those floaters that we had come to expect him to hit on a regular basis. In this game, he kind of got back to that a little bit, had a couple of good like easy threes. It just kind of felt like he settled into his own Derek Whiteness again. Spoonie, is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. I thought I have in my 3 lines of notes here, quietly effective Derek White game. Like 15, 3 and 3, 5 of 10 shooting. Great defensively. That block he had was friggin' sick, dude.
Come on.
I it's a shame. I think Memphis got the rebound and immediately scored, which was a shame. But he was really solid, man. I mean, just like that's what he is. That's who he is. Like, we had that little rut, the post JJ rut, but he's back.
Yeah, he's definitely settled back in lately. The wonky floaters are going in. Yeah, look, the mistress. We're kind of back on here. We gotta bring the mistress. Speaking of, if you haven't joined the if you haven't joined the First of the Four Discord, please join the First of the Four Discord. It's very fun. We're all in there, and like we're seeing some disturbing things coming out of the meme section thanks to Heisenberg. And if you haven't seen this, I mean,
oh my god,
I don't know.
It's genuinely terrifying and hilarious.
Yeah.
And but you know, he's right. He's just perfect. He is just Derek White. He just feels like he's kind of back to settling into just making the right play. And some of the legitimate rim protection this guy is providing as a 6'4" guard is absolutely outrageous. Like the transition defense, maybe that's the biggest difference between this game and the Lakers game. There were still some moments early, but like the transition defense for this team hasn't been a problem at all. And not to get too sidetracked, but like the whole threes versus layups thing, you really, once you pay attention to Joe's comments like about layup, was it Zach Lowe talking about how people inside the Celtics say like when you miss layups it leads to transition opportunities, whereas you miss threes you can set your defense. When you really lock into that specific thing, it's very obvious. And like when like, and in the playoffs, if you don't give the opposition any transition opportunities, and this with this defense, it's going to be so hard for teams to like consistently manufacture buckets. And so, I don't know, just something I kind of noticed to like after paying attention to that specific thing. But yeah, Derek White, perfect. 4 from 8 from 3, back to his 50, 40, 90 ways of life.
Good game for Al Horford, a plus 27, tied at the top there with D. White and Jayson Tatum.
On twos for Al.
Yeah, absolutely.
Getting down low. Duncan.
And just 23 minutes, which might be my favorite stat from Al Horford tonight. As far as the productivity, we can't say the same thing about Jrue Holiday, who on a bit of a stretch here of mediocrity, I think is probably the right word for it. Like, he hasn't been terrible, but he's been noticeably out of character, I think is fair to say. Jake, I'll throw to you because you've really emerged as salty Jake the most when it comes to things of matters of Jrue Holiday. So take it away.
Some of the mistakes that he do are just so confounding, head-scratching moments. Like tonight, the Grizzlies are in a zone, and he just... Sorry, this comment here for audio listeners. The tub is filled with Horford juice. It's perfect. That's a lot. That's a lot of Horford juice. The Grizzlies are in a zone, and like Jrue literally throws a bounce pass. It wasn't like an interception, directly into the stomach of the defender. And it's just like, these things are just becoming a little more common lately. So like that one, the 8-second violation when you're bleeding the clock in the Pacers game, where Jrue just like starts going behind the back, and then it was either a turnover or a backcourt, and that leads to like having to do the Derek White block in the corner and the Jayson Tatum block at the rim. Whereas if that doesn't happen, then the game's effectively over. You have the backcourt violation on the first possession of the Miami game. Like, I'm never gonna get it out of my mind. And like it's just so like, this is a big game, national TV against our rival, and you literally just say, what? Like, I don't even know. So like, these things are just popping up. Obviously we have like the out of rhythm pull up threes, but I'm becoming okay. I'm like, I've gotten to a place where I'm okay with it, because he's just shooting 40% from 3, so it doesn't really matter as long as the shots are going in enough. And then defensively, he's just like, he's getting blown by on the perimeter a fair bit at the moment. Yeah. And like, we got to make sure he's on bigger guys more often, I think, Sweeney.
Yeah, I maybe part of it's the schedule, and he's just getting a little bit worn down. Joe's not doing him a ton of favors with the lineups. I feel like he's shared minutes with like some of these funky bench lineups, like these weird double big lineups, but that doesn't explain some of the ridiculous stuff. Like the Miami backcourt, that is the most insane thing I've ever seen in the NBA, I think. Like, how does that even happen? But regardless, putting that aside, he's had 8 or fewer points in his last 5 games. Like, he's just, it just feels like he's just kind of losing what I thought he had gotten. I thought he was getting more and more comfortable as we went, and we've really like backslided here in his role in the offense. I will say, it feels like he does come up with like timely run-stopping buckets at times.
Agreed.
Like, I think he had one layup today that we just like really needed it, and he just posted one of their guards. I think it might have been Gilliard up and just went straight to the rim and got a bucket. And he hit a corner 3 that I think was like stretched the lead to basically end the game. But I don't know, man. It's kind of worrying, to be honest with you guys.
Yeah, it's like relative to his place in the team hierarchy as like basically the 5th or sometimes 6th best player on the team. It's not that concerning or alarming to me, but relative to his reputation and his contract and the expectations of what he would be and bring to this team when we did make the trade and bring him in, it's a little concerning and frankly like disappointing. And we sort of naturally we clutch at straws and look for excuses as to why the guys aren't going balls to the wall all season. We just talked about, hopefully it's because they're preserving themselves for the latter part of the season and the postseason. With Jrue, they seem like more mental mistakes, which you should still be able to maintain like your mental clarity and approach to the game throughout the stretch of a regular season, even if you are saving your legs. He's not doing that, so it is concerning. I'm worried, and like I don't see a way out of it. And obviously we're speculating massively there without fully understanding what's going on with him and just how he views this juncture of the season and his role on this team. Like there's a lot of variables there, but it's one of the more concerning aspects of the team as we look ahead to what we might look like in the playoffs. So fortunately, there's a lot of hoop left.
I do think you're kind of on the track there, Ben, with the role though. Like in the playoffs, again, the rotation's going to get shorter. The roles are going to be even more defined. Like I think he's going to really fall into like fifth on the like hierarchy. And it's like you're a legit catch and shoot guy, and we're going to like obvious mismatches. Like if you've got Dame on you, I still like him in those spots. Like I still like him to post up Dame, post up Maxey, post up Malik Beasley, post up Garland, post up Terry Rozier, Hero. Like you can still find those mismatches. It's like there's definitely value there, but I'm a little worried. But like his impact can only be so much when he's the fifth guy on this team. It's going to be Tatum, Derek, Jaylen, and KP really taking the bulk of the shots. So like I just have visions of like the Brogdon pass turnover in game 1 of the Philly series.
Oh, yeah. So bad.
Still too soon. It's still too soon.
But the defense, man, is been great at times. Like you said it, Jake, like he's getting blown by a lot, like kind of inexcusably at times too from some of these guys that are beating him. And it's like, it's fine if we figure it out in the playoffs on offense and he's just a corner shooter. And I think you're right. I think that's what'll happen. But like, if he's not a plus defender, I mean, that's like concerning.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like you talk about extension stuff, it's like you don't want to extend this 33, 34-year-old as the defense has felt like it's slipped a little bit this year. But again, that could be the schedule. And like he could absolutely be worn down, which would not be surprising where but yeah, like he really should be on the Al Horford plan more so than he's on the Jaylen Brown plan. And like the last time I looked at the minutes per game, I feel like he was like kind of higher than I need him to be. Like he should be 4th on the team in minutes. Jaylen, Jayson, Derek, and then Jrue, as opposed to like Jrue, I'm pretty sure if I pull it up here, yeah, he's 2nd on the team in minutes per game. Obviously it's close, but it's like, why is he playing 1.2 minutes more than Derek White and not the other way around where he's playing 1.2 minutes less? Like obviously that's a rotation thing and maybe I'm getting a little too granular with it, but he's the guy that would make sense to me that he should be playing less minutes, not to mention the fact that Derek's better.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how we adjust to that thought after the All-Star break. And he's one of the guys maybe at the top of the list who like I can't wait to have the All-Star break off and get some time and get some rest and get his mind right for the final stretch of the season. It'll be interesting to see how he adjusts as he learns more about his role on the team. Guys, should we get to it? Let's look at the moment right here.
Could be in trouble here. Here we go.
Good board. Oh.
Okay, Walshy.
Got to lock in.
Oh, great recovery there. Beautiful.
Beat him the rock.
He's open.
He's got it.
Let's go! Woo! Walshy! Let's go, dude.
It happened. It happened, guys. We've had to wait a very long time. Basically, 2/3 of the way into the season. Jordan Walsh, Spoonie, gets his first NBA bucket. Walk us through, because you featured in the chat there on that video, but you weren't up on the stream with us. Walk us through your Walshy debut bucket experience.
Yeah, first of all, can I just say, Ben, you said it was like you were playing 2K and passed it to him because you were like, give it to him, and it's an immediate pass right to Jordan Walsh. So
I see the game.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. First of all, great box out on that defensive possession. Incredible box out. Running like a gazelle. Gazelles aren't fast enough. A cheetah. Large
cheetah gazelle.
It's very majestic.
Gajita, and like kind of a really nice, like strong move to the rim. Like puts it on the deck, goes I think 2-footed, and just like smashes it home. Like there's like all joking aside, there's a player in there, man. 100%.
Okay, dude, I'm 100% sure that he's better than Banton. That's not even a question.
No,
he's better than Lamar, and he's probably better than Svi. Like, I get that it makes sense to have him in the G League because like he's not going to get real minutes on this team right now. But I'm like not even 100% sure he's not going to be better than O'Shea at this point. Like that might be pushing it, but I want more, dude. I'm tantalized. Like the on target passes, like he didn't lead to an assist on the first one, but he got it in the corner. Could have easily pulled it. Drove the closeout, swung it to the top of the key to Hauser, I think it was, and they swung it one more time, and it went in, and he had the other assist. Like the playmaking is legit. Like I mean, not like they're gonna run 10 pick and rolls with Walshy, but like he can like
I'd like to see him.
Like second side drive closeouts, make the right play. I don't know, man. It got me so hyped, dude, and this just makes me want to get the 1 seed immediately so that we can just get more and more. But this is a big deal. 8 minutes, 33 seconds he comes in, which is by far the earliest he's come in so far. I think the other time was 3 minutes to go. Last time we had a blowout, there was 6 minutes to go, and we still had like Hauser, Pritchard, Cornette, and then like the other parts of the bench came in, and so we only got 3 minutes. 8 minutes, that feels like a good sign. But man, these guys must hate Walsh, or like they really want to try and put some stuff on tape for other teams to sign them next year. And can I just say, Delano Banton, let me give you some advice. You want to put less shit on tape. Let me tell you that right now. You want less stuff on tape. You know what's going to look better is if you pass the ball to Jordan Walsh in the right spots. Hey, Svi, maybe hit Jordan Walsh when he's like streaking down the sideline as opposed to throwing it 2 seconds too late into the top of the backboard. Oh my God, I was losing my fucking mind.
It's the worst, dude. It wasn't even close.
Jesse Almeida in the chat has just sent us via Twitter. This is the Jordan Walsh experience from inside the arena earlier tonight. Would have absolutely beat me. Just absolutely losing my mind at Walshy's debut bucket. We've got some good pics have come in over Twitter after this moment. So there's Walshy celebrating with the fellas. Very prideful look on his face. Luke Cornett is absolutely stoked. And then we've got Walshy with the game ball after the game. He said that a couple of people tried to steal it from him after the game, but he made sure he got his massive hands on it. So really good to see. It's so interesting how we went into this game with the mindset of like, this is all about Marcus Smart. I've got my tissues. I'm ready to cry real man tears watching this game. And by the end, it was tears of joy watching Walshy soaring above the clouds there for his first NBA bucket. Good stuff. Anything else on this game or Walshy or Marcus Smart before we go? We'll get to some Embiid news and the upcoming schedule, and then we might call it quits.
Well,
guys.
I want to ask you guys about Walsh. Like, do you think that there like is a reason to try and get him? Maybe not soon, but like, can he play over Svi, Banton, and Lamar? I mean, Lamar's not playing, and I guess really Banton and Svi aren't either. But like, find ways to sprinkle him in on like as we get to this lighter stretch here.
Yeah, I think they definitely want him with Maine so he can just take like 20 shots a night and he needs to be able to make corner threes. He doesn't need to shoot 40%, but he's got to be like 36, 37% and be willing.
Hey, Brissett's out there, man. He can't shoot corner threes.
Yeah, well, fair enough. He made one tonight, I guess. It wasn't a corner, but so I think like they want him there, but there's no reason you can't. Yes, Steven, this is live.
Hello, Steven.
Hi, Steven. But there's no reason you can't bring him up for a night against a team like this and give him some minutes. I'd like to see him. He's the type of guy that is going to up his game when he has players like Tatum and Brown and Porzingis around him. He needs someone to take the defensive attention. And if he can, make the occasional corner three and drive closeouts and make the right play, defensively, he looks as advertised in these small stints too. Like he moves his feet.
Ooh. Come on.
Yeah.
Got over the thing.
Yeah. And
big long arms. Come on, dude.
But I agree. I agree with Spoonie though. Like demanding that Walshy sit on our bench all the time so he can play the like Delano Banton role or the Lamar Stevens role or even the O'Shea Brissett role. It's more about us and our needs than it is about him and his needs. Where it's all about volume and experience and minutes on the court. It's like I'll say to my wife, "That's a beautiful dress. You look absolutely stunning in that dress." And she'll be like, "It's not comfortable. I'm not going to wear this dress around the house all the time. That wouldn't make sense. I'm going to wear something a lot more comfortable." Walshy can't wear the dress all the time, all right? He's got to get around in some sweats and be comfortable in life. So I'm sticking with that analogy.
So to be clear, Walsh looks good in anything.
Yeah. So just to clarify.
I had no idea where that was going.
Yeah. To be honest, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to land this plane.
Well landed. No emergency. The oxygen masks didn't come down. Everybody was...
Oh, they were close. The stewardess was waving at me from behind the screen here.
I think just like you can do both, right? Like you want him playing in every main game, and that's definitely going to be more important. But like when it's possible for him to be with the team and not be with Maine, then he should be up there. A tough Ben ISO from Ollie in the gym.
Yeah, I got the bucket. I got the bucket.
Back,
yeah, that's like the no yes shot from Jrue right there.
That's right.
You should be able to do both. And I think in these blowouts, in the moments where it makes sense to put one of the deep bench guys in there, he's hopefully there as much as possible. And again, this is like second to getting the actual important guys to win a title, rest down the stretch in the regular season as like the number one reason to get the 1 seed as soon as possible. The second reason is to get Jordan Walsh minutes, because if they're able to get a 6-7 game lead, then why not you play him like the actual O'Shea minutes in some of these games against some of the lesser opponents with Tatum and these guys, just so we can be happy. I think it's really the important thing. But it'd be good for him too.
Yeah, I would like to be happy. Did you guys hear Scal use house money sans Drew Carter on the broadcast? I wonder if we can get them using Walshy. I wonder if we can make Walshy part of the common Celtics parlance as well and nomenclature. We'll have to keep pushing that. All right, let's get to this Joel Embiid news, because it's unfortunately sad news. There's the tweet from Woj, and of course I can't read the writing on my tiny little screen here, but basically he's undergoing some sort of procedure on his meniscus, and we're still unclear what the recovery timeline is. Obviously, that's brutal. Dude was having an incredible season, and was objectively fun to watch, as much as I despise the Sixers.
Don't know about that part. But yeah.
don't enjoy all the free throws. It's obviously sad news. It does make things interesting in the Eastern Conference landscape, as there's a lot of jockeying for position seating-wise under the Celtics there. And if he does come back and they haven't closed that window, Jake, you were talking about this in our Discord last night or the night before, that there exists a scenario where we might face them in the first round of the playoffs with a healthy Embiid potentially having returned by that point, healthy-ish. So, thoughts on this situation? My mind I can't help but wonder back to just how this has been mismanaged yet again by the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah, it just sucks. But again, though, we still don't really know. Like, I think the information we've had for the past week has been pretty much the same, where it's like, at minimum, he's going to be out 4 weeks would be like the absolute best case scenario, where it's like really the soonest is probably like 6 weeks. And at that point, you come back in 6 weeks, that takes you to like right before the playoffs. And can he ramp up in time? It's just, and then even then you think about like the different procedures is similar to what Rob did, like with the trim of the meniscus. It's funny how NBA fans have become like meniscus experts over their careers here. It's like, do you do the trim and you come back earlier like Rob, which by the way risks the long-term health with arthritis. You don't really know when that could pop up. And with someone like Embiid, it's hard to balance. It's like every year when he's playing like this is like one of your best chances of winning a title, but you also don't want to compromise his long-term health because you want that window to be as long as possible. So is it going to be the surgery where it's like, let's call it 4 to 6 weeks, or is it the surgery where he's going to be out like for the rest of the season? And like they're being very like careful with trying to like leak certain information. Like we don't even have a lean either way. Like I'm sure they know right now like what the most likely scenario is, but they're not sharing that with the rest of us, and that's fair enough given how impactful and how emotional Sixers fans and everybody is about this situation.
Yeah. So I will say I'm going to be a little bit mean first. Like this guy can't ramp up to play playoff games when he has an entire regular season to get himself in shape. Like I am very skeptical of his ability to be highly effective in the playoffs if he's going to be coming off of knee surgery and he's 7'2" and 300 pounds. Like if I, but I will say
you can't do cardio while you're rehabbing. Like
you can do the little arm paddle machine. That's all you can do. I've done it so many times. It sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, so like if I was and look, I want to beat the Sixers fully healthy. Like I don't want like, oh well, Embiid was he wasn't healthy, but I hope he comes back. I hope he's healthy, and I hope the Celtics beat him. But if I was the Sixers, you've got a lot of tradable contracts. You've got a decent amount of like tradable assets. You could kind of change your entire team if you take a little long-term view of this trade deadline or even the offseason where I think they can carve out a lot of salary cap space too, which you will probably not have ever again for many years. So I would probably just punt this year, frankly. But then Embiid certainly doesn't want to do that because he's like 28 and just has a massive knee injury. So his time is ticking, man, for sure. So it's a shitty situation. It really sucks. Hope he comes back healthy, and I hope we sweep him.
He'll be 30 in March.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is a hell of a season to punt, but also I fully align with your logic there, Spoonie, because if the alternative to not punting the season and regathering assets and shaping yourself up for next year, it's coming back with essentially a hobbled Embiid, even if he does recover from the surgery based on his reputation there, Jake.
Yeah, and I think taking a long-term view is probably the smartest thing. It's just, what are the chances he's able to really get into MVP form again between now and when the playoff starts? It's like, and then it does depend though. Like maybe this, like whatever the short term thing is going to be the best thing for his long term health. Like we don't quite know yet. But like, and they've got this max cap space plan, which I'm talking to Trill Bro Dude, who we had on the podcast in the summer. We might try and get him on for our trade deadline primer.
Awesome.
He just replied to me before here, and so he's been on the max cap space thing as a complete lie, and they're going to really be aggressive at this deadline for the future because free agency is kind of died a little bit lately, especially for like top tier guys. So they could easily. Yeah, I think they're going to want to still be competitive though, even if like they sit Embiid down. Like they're not going to want to just like throw away the season. Like they're going to try and at least build for the next year or two. So I would expect them to be aggressive. They've got assets, but yeah, it's a bummer, dude. You want to see like one of the top 5 players in the league, one of your top rivals, a team that you kind of typically play really well against as well. But yeah, I also don't want to see Embiid in the first round, even if he's like hobbled. Like that's not something you want, dude. Like Embiid, Max, even if he's like, remember like Rob in the finals, game on, game off, when he was on, the Celtics were a plus. And like if Rob was able to play one more game or like 4 more minutes each game, do we like fucking win the series? Like I still don't want to deal with Joel Embiid in round 1. It's like,
no.
It's not ideal.
Yeah, that's the thing that I grapple with from a fandom perspective is like, of course, I would never wish injuries upon anybody, and I genuinely hope that he is okay and that he recovers quickly. But at the same time, boy, am I glad that potentially that's like one obstacle out of the way, or at least limited in its ability as far as the Celtics getting to that championship. I think it's okay to exist with that duality in mind. Like, you have, it's natural to have some relief over okay, we might not have to face a full strength Embiid. Like that feels good in a sense, while also feeling horrible about his situation.
Like if a genie came to you one day and was like, I'm giving you the option to tear so-and-so's knee apart, I'll just magically do it. Like I'm, as much as like a part of me is going to consider saying yes, like I'm just going to say no. Like I'm not a
okay. So glad that was your choice.
I'm a human. I'm gonna think like it's gonna come up into my brain. It's just a thought. Thoughts are just thoughts. They're not actions. Like a thought has never hurt someone. It's what are you actually doing? And I chose the genie to empower Jayson Tatum with 40% shooting from the 3-point line in the playoffs instead. Like just far more reasonable request. And so none of us really like want him to be injured, but like objectively, like it's better for the Celtics for Embiid to not play in the playoffs, right? That's just a fact. And so yeah.
All right, we got to wrap this thing up. Before we get to the upcoming schedule, the Bucks were up on the Jazz by 20-ish points. Yeah, now the Jazz, they've gone on a 27-10 fourth quarter, up 5 with 4 minutes to go. So let's wrap this thing up so we can catch that for a Schadenfreude look for the next pod. But look, upcoming schedule, very quickly, we're in the slot here, guys. We just had 2 days off. Now we've got another 2 days off before facing the Hawks, who have been surging as a stretch, but they've been better lately. The Hawks, then the Wizards, the Heat, the Nets, and then we're at the All-Star break. So, like, there's, again, a stretch. I don't want to say there's hope on the horizon because there's obviously a lot of hope going around with this team and their prospects. But there's a nice break coming up and a nice, easy, soft landing as they arrive at that break as well. So thoughts on this upcoming schedule, Spoonie, other than, like, I'm relieved with how easy it might be, hopefully?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm personally relieved because the last month has been, like, extremely busy. We've been cranking out content. So, it'd be nice for us to get a little bit of a break, too.
Agreed.
Yeah. My wife will very much enjoy it. I can tell you that much. Until she has to spend more time with me. And
she's
then
like,
actually go back to the Celtics.
Don't you do a podcast? Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's good. I hope that they remain focused and, like, you have a pretty good chance to sweep your way to the All-Star break here. And, like, to Jake's point, that you're going to go a long way to, like, locking up the 1 seed basically before March starts almost. If you just pick it up, play your game, and concentrate. Don't lose focus just because you see that long break in the very near future and because a lot of these teams are not very good.
Yeah, man, like, we can do this. Like, even if, like, we lose the Heat game, if we can just beat the Hawks, Wizards, and both Nets games. Also, the Nets game is a back-to-back, one in Brooklyn, one in Boston. Just what are we doing here? I guess that just must be, like, they have to make sure we get even home road, but why is there not a gap in between? I guess the All-Star break starts the day after the Nets game. Could they have not just played it the day after? Like, very odd. But, like, can we get out of here with going... 4-1, assuming you lose the Heat game. Obviously, you can win that game as well. The Nets may have traded half their team by the time we get to the 2 Nets games as well, by the way. So that's something to keep an eye on. Honestly, same with the Wizards. They could have, like, Danny Avdija could be on the Celtics. Who knows? We'll talk about that later in the week. But and then the Heat could have traded for who knows, someone awesome. They've got the assets and to kind of make a move as well. So, yeah, we'll get out of here. The Bucks have blown a massive lead. It's 115, 108 with 3 minutes to go. 109. Okay. Let's Kelly Olynyk to the hole.
Up 11.
Olynyk to the hole.
Kelly Olynyk. Let's go.
And one? Did he get an and one?
No and one. No and one.
All right.
There we go.
All right.
It's looking pretty good here.
We got to duck out of here and watch
32-9
this.
run. Holy shit. All right. Let's fucking go.
Look, we've got a big rest of the week coming up with our trade deadline primer in a couple of days. One last sweep through all the possibilities that might occur for the Celtics, and then we've got our trade deadline special in the hour leading up to the trade deadline on Thursday night. It's going to be a lot of fun. This has been another episode of Celtics Late Night. This will go up on the podcast feed, so thanks to everyone listening later. Love everyone for joining us in the chat. This has been a lot of fun. Until next time, go Celtics.